Let's start with the Colts at Arizona on Christmas Day. Ho, ho, ho. 50 points, Steve. What you want to do? 49 now. 49, Steve. 49 now.
Relax, all right? These are two of the top teams hitting the over in the league right now. They've gone a combined 15 and 13. And while that doesn't sound overly impressive, there are only 5 teams in the league that are hitting the over in more than half of their games. So both of these teams play at a higher pace than half of the league. Arizona running 65.6 plays per game. That's tied for the 7th most in the league. The Colts are just above league average as well. I think this game is going over that 49 total.
Jeffrey, 49 total. What do you want to do, bud?
Yeah, well, I want to be, Santa Jeff here and bring you all the points because I agree. I think this one's going over as well. You've got an Indianapolis Colts team that basically just you can pencil in for at least 27 points. They're averaging over 30 points over their last 9 games. I mean, this offense just cannot be stopped. The Arizona Cardinals rush defense certainly isn't going to be the ones to put a cap on Jonathan Taylor because they haven't been able to stop anybody on the ground. And then, I mean, again, you've got an Arizona Cardinals defense that at least has proven that in garbage time, Kyler Murray will rack up the yards. I'm actually a little bit worried that the Colts get up by 10 in this game, and then the Cardinals, as we saw last week, just can't convert in the red zone. But I think at the very least, especially at 49, I think this one's too low. I think you can't keep betting the over until it gets up to around the 51 mark.
Okay, Pearce, what's your approach?
Let's make it 3 overs for the club here. And I agree with everything these guys said, especially the Arizona rush defense struggling to stop some really weak rush attacks. Now they've got to face probably the best running back in years. They're going to struggle with that. That's going to open up the Indianapolis passing game. I have no doubt that Indianapolis is going to put points up against Arizona, who surrendered 26 points to Detroit last week. They're not looking very sharp at the moment. The question comes down to Arizona. Can they fix their problems from last week? And it really wasn't it was a disaster. They lost, but they just didn't execute on 3rd down and 4th down in the first half, and they just fell out of that game. If they can complete those plays, and even if they don't, let's say they do fall behind, this is the time of the season where Kyler Murray needs to be more aggressive. He needs to start running. That's the only way they're going to be able to get through the playoffs, especially if they're not going to have a full-strength DeAndre Hopkins. And this is a team in Indianapolis that will give you short yardage passes and play off the line of scrimmage and allow Kyler Murray to run. So if they get aggressive, then this thing easily will clear the over.
Same total here, Jeff, for Rams at your Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So 49.
I'm bringing a big bag of cold to this one. We're going under on this. I just feel like with the Rams getting back to full health and having Jalen Ramsey out there, it's going to be enough to slow down the Vikings here at home. Again, you've got Kirk Cousins going up against a good team. We saw what he did last week against the Bears, which was really not much. He threw for 2 touchdown passes and basically at a sub 50% completion rate. I also think the Rams on the road here, I know they're the high-flying offense, and I do like Matthew Stafford as a dark horse for MVP, and Cooper Kupp playing, amazing. But I think if they get a lead here, they're just going to sit on it with their running backs, very similar to what they did last week against the Seahawks. So I think this total, while we have 2 good offenses, I think this total is ripe for an under here. 49, it just feels a little bit too high at this point in the season.
How do you feel about this total, Pearce?
I'm going to take the over. The Vikings, 6 of their last 8 games, they've gone over. And in those 6, they've cleared the over by 13 points on average. So this weren't even close. The 2 times they missed, obviously that Bears debacle the other night. And then against the Chargers, it was a 53.5 total, which is pretty high. And they missed mainly because it was just one of those typical Charger games where the offense didn't show up for Los Angeles. Justin Herbert threw for under 200 yards. Austin Eckler under 50 yards rushing. So just one of those typical Chargers games. My issue would be the Rams offense not looking that great the other night. But if you look at it, they were 0 for 4 on 3rd and long, and it just didn't do anything in the first half. But they came back in the second half, scored 17 points, ended up with a 50% 3rd down conversion rate, which is higher than their season average. The Rams offense, I think they're going to be fine. I don't want to overreact to one poor half, and the Vikings tend to go over more, so I'll take the over.
All right, Steve, you're a little concerned about the Rams offense here.
Not really, and these are the 2 teams that are, 2 of the 5 teams that have gone over more than 50% of the time. But we just saw Kirk Cousins play the Bears last week. They had no starting defensive backs in that team, and he still managed to complete only 50% of his pass attempts. Are you kidding? Now he's going to go against the Rams that like Jalen Ramsey and all that, and we're like, oh, Pearce is like, oh, yeah, totally going to get the over at this one. Like that was a disaster by the Vikings. Like there's no other way you can put that they literally had 5 defensive backs on the COVID list and Kirk Cousins was barely averaging 4 yards per pass attempt. That was brutal. Now they're going to face a much better secondary. This game's going under, baby.
All right, sweet. Steve, what about Washington at Dallas here, 47.5?
Yeah, this also feels like it could be a nice under in this one here. Like that Washington offensive line against the Eagles last night, they were just getting tossed all over the place. Now they're facing a good pass rushing team with the Cowboys. Washington only managed 20 points in their last game. That was with Heineke under center too as well. This just feels a little bit too high for me. Cowboys are, haven't been doing anything much offensively either. I have no issue that they're going to get back on track here, but they're not exactly lighting up the scoreboard either. 47.5 points given the under of this one.
Jeff, which direction you going in?
I can't believe this total's this high. Like, I do not know. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, did Washington, hire a new OC or get, a new offensive line like Pearce said? No, this one is a great under. Washington got off to a hot start last week against Philly, who just looked a little bit nervous. And then they basically did nothing the entire game. It's a team that we've mentioned this, the last 3 weeks. They're one of the worst in the red zone in the league. And now they're going up against a better defense this week in Dallas. The worry here is Dallas puts up 30 points, but I don't even think you need to worry about that because you're still asking Washington against a really good Dallas defense to score 17 plus points. Both these teams have trended towards the under this year as well. They're both, 6 and 8 hitting overs. So they're obviously got a losing record to the overs. I don't know why you'd want to take on this high a total to go over here. I think this one will come down in the week, and I think this one makes for a really good early week target for your totals to go under on.
Pearce, is this an early week target for a total you want to hammer the under on?
Yeah, we'll keep hammering the under on Washington. They're going to be healthier this week. No doubt that the COVID injuries and the other injuries really hurt that team, especially the offensive line. I believe one of their starters was a full-size plus male model. To give you an idea
nice.
Of some of the people that were playing for Washington last week. They're healthier, but even when they're healthy, like Jeff mentioned, they don't score touchdowns. We just saw this matchup a couple weeks ago, and Washington couldn't score against Dallas, and Dallas couldn't score against Washington. Dallas has a pretty good defense. They've only allowed, 20 points or fewer in 5 of the last 6 games. I think the injuries are finally catching up with Washington. Their defense will still put up a fight. But again, I don't really buy into Dallas yet. They haven't turned it on, so I don't see them turning it on yet this week either. So give me the under.
Pearce, Baltimore at Cincinnati, 44.5 right now is the total in the DK Sportsbook. Baltimore currently on the outside of the playoffs looking in here. This could be their season.
Yeah, I think their season's already over, but I'll take the over. This seems like they just AFC North games every week. They're going to just give them a 43 or 44 for every single game. It doesn't matter who is playing. And I think this one is wrong. Baltimore's defense has struggled all season. They're going to stop the run. That's fine. But the secondary in Baltimore was weak to begin the season. And now they've got the injuries. They like to play man-to-man. They like to press and be aggressive on the line of scrimmage. They just don't have the personnel for that. And when they did have the personnel for that, they still struggled against Cincinnati. They allowed 400 yards passing to Burrow, 41 points. That's a bad spot for Baltimore. Cincinnati's defense, they surprised some people, but they're not as good as we thought they were, or some people thought they were. But they're not also that bad, but they're just an average defense, and I don't think that they're going to completely shut down Baltimore. Baltimore's offense has looked fine all season. Points will happen in this game.
You think points will happen in this game, Jeff?
I do. I'm pretty much on the exact same page. You've got, like Pearce said, just an average Cincinnati defense, and we saw what Baltimore's offense really hasn't been the issue most of the year. Yeah, they can be hit or miss with the passing game, but generally, if the other team is putting up points, they'll be happy to get in shootouts. They did it, early in the year a couple times. They did it against Minnesota. They did it last week against Green Bay, where you saw this offense can move the ball and score really quickly. And I think on the other side of the ball, this is where you really like to go, because I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, I think these guys are going to have a monster day. I mean, I think that since he could put up 35 plus points here, because what Baltimore is putting out in the secondary right now, I mean, Pearce talked about, male plus model sizes or whatever. I don't know who they're dragging into the secondary in Baltimore right now. This team is going to get shredded. And at 44.5, it's just too low. So, yeah, I definitely like the over in the spot right now. All
right, speaking of male model, Steven, over or under 44.5? Thanks for
honestly, that was the segue I was really hoping for, and you came through in the clutch. Here's the only worry that I have about the over here. I fear that because Baltimore is in the position that they are, maybe they rushed Lamar Jackson back too early, and that's where the offense for the Baltimore Baltimore Ravens crumbles. Because quite frankly, like, their offense has looked better with Huntley under center as of late than it has with Lamar Jackson. If we're being honest and we sit back and say, who gives the Ravens the best chance to win right now? It's not Lamar Jackson. And if he's not able to use his legs to run, Jackson kind of becomes a one-dimensional quarterback, and he wasn't exactly, one of the better prospects in the league because of his passing. It was because we can do with his legs. So if they rush back Lamar Jackson, I think this game's going under because I don't think Baltimore's going to get anything going offensively. So I'm going to side with the under this one. It's going to be gross. It's going to be sweaty, but, that's how this NFL season's gone all along.
I honestly don't think we have any Baltimore Raven fans watching the show after what Pearce and I have been saying last month, and then now Steve saying Lamar Jackson isn't even the best quarterback on the team. Sorry, Baltimore Raven fans, we're just spitting truth here. I mean, we're only deal with the hands we get.
Yep, and that's coming from Santa Ulrich there. Pearce was saying that Baltimore's season was over after week one. All right, Steve was mentioning no offense there. That was the case for Tampa Bay and really Carolina last weekend. So those two are going to clash in North Carolina in week 16. 44 points is the total on the DK Sportsbook. Geoff, which way are you leaning?
I think this one's too low, too. I'm going to lean over here. I mean, it feels like I've taken one overs too many just in the way the league is trending. But it does feel like we have a bit of an overreaction this week to, the COVID situations and just a lot of unders hitting. Look, I get it. Tampa Bay lost all their star players. But one reason why Tampa Bay is so good is because they have some of the most insane depth in the league. Antonio Brown is back next week, so that takes care of Chris Godwin. Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones started over Leonard Fournette last year. It's just Leonard Fournette had a good playoffs, and he took over the starting role. Ronald Jones is a very good running back. I don't really know if the Bucs offense is going to miss a beat here. And the biggest thing is they're taking on the Panthers, who can't stop anyone in third and long situations. I think the Panthers will move the ball a little bit with Cam Newton rushing the ball. Tampa does allow, quite a few rushing yards on the ground to opposing quarterbacks. So I think you can pencil Carolina in for 14, 17 points here. And I think Tampa will take care of the rest. I think you're getting a very low overreaction total to all these injuries. Never see 44 totals with Tampa Bay. I take the over here.
All right, Steve, you're going to be without Godwin the rest of the year. Fournette is likely out. How much does that hurt Tampa Bay's chances of putting up a boatload of points?
I mean, it hurts, too, because everyone's like, oh, it's Tom Brady. He'll get the offense down. Does anybody forget when he was with the Patriots for his last year and he had no offense? That wasn't Tom Brady, right? He wasn't looking like the Tom Brady we're all used to. I mean, look, this total has come down really low, though. This opened up at 48.5, and then all the injuries are oh, look at that. Good job, guys. It opened at 48.5. It's just tumbled since with all the news coming through. I mean, it was at 47.5 just 2 days ago, and it's come all the way down to 44. This is too low now. I mean, I don't really think anything's going to come of Cam Newton. They're certainly not going to run anything on the ground, so you got to rely upon him. But if the Bucs can start putting up at least 25 points or so, 26, 27 points in this, the Carolina Panthers should be able to do the rest. They're going to have to do it through the air, which is scary to think about. But, yeah, this is just too low now. 44 points. I'll take the over.
Pearce, does this total feel too low to you?
Yeah, let's go with the over. It's Keyshawn Vaughn season. He's finally going to get his opportunity. Been waiting for 2 years for this to happen. Third-round pick. He's got talent. But as Geoff mentioned, Jones was the starting running back all last season, and he's still a good running back on a good line. Gio Bernard could start getting some work. They've got enough weapons. Yeah, they laid an egg last week, but that's because they had to come up with a game plan in the middle of the game. They've got all week. Bruce Arians is a good coach. Tom Brady is still a smart guy. They'll come up with a plan, and they're going to be working with short fields. Carolina turnovers, 3-and-outs, punts. I think Tom Brady's going to have plenty of volume and opportunities to score points and then give some garbage points to Carolina. This thing goes over.